Hello everyone, this is Caillou, and I'm back here with Bradley Rose to do our second Moxtober daily wrap-up. Today's prompt is Curio. What comes to your mind when you think of Curio?
Trinket stuff.
hmm
Little
And
choppy.
yeah, in MTG terms, trinkets are not just artifacts, but particularly small ones, like CMC1. But while we did see like lots of that specific thing, there was also just like artifacts galore, I think, in this submission period. Like and lots of like artifacts that also had like modal effects doing lots of uh small effects that added up to like a more powerful package having that modality. So I think that this was definitely one that I think had like a strong overarching resonance for a lot of people. um
That feels appropriate. Sometimes they can get differently acquired.
yeah. Okay, so which card do you want to start off on?
Let's start with Chinese.
Dope.
So, for this one, this is like it evokes a vending booth. There's this flavorful interaction where it's like you're shopping. Someone buys something and they give you treasures. And I thought that was a pretty cool flavor I haven't seen on all.
Yeah, and I think the decision to give that many treasure tokens plus one, it's like a small thing compared to just giving the same number, but I think it really adds to the mechanical component of this because you get the same flavor, but here it actually feels mechanically good to give up two mana to give someone something else. You're actually like ramping past what that artifact itself uh, would have, like how much you spent on that artifact itself. So it's much less of a feels bad. But of course, if you're playing this, you're probably playing this in like a deck that wants to, for some reason or another, give players permanence, like the classic Zedru.
Yeah, if you have nothing else in your deck, you can still just trade one treasure for two and over. Yeah,
Oh,
you still
that
get
doesn't
those.
say non token. I did not notice that.
Oh,
Yeah, this is pretty dope. I think like yeah, we had like some like I said artifacts, but I think we definitely had like good land designs this time around as well.
those
Um,
are tough.
yeah, I think like lands is just like a really hard thing to hit without it, like, because you're like, can I do this without being broken? And often the answer is no, but I think we got some really cool designs. So, do you mind if I'm going to talk about the other two lands that we had designed for this. Um, one of
Yeah.
which is Curio Shop. Oh, whoops, not that Curio Shop, this one. Um, which is a land which has add colorless, but you can pay for, tap, choose one at random, and you create a clue, a treasure, or a construct. I thought this was pretty simple, but I really liked the idea of just like, yeah, you're gonna get some bauble. What? It's a surprise. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, it's awesome to throw back to our classic types of food and treasure. It makes sense that a shop is to have food as curio,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to pretend that maybe there's some future staple of creating one artifact creature tokens like treasures and clues, but
Yeah,
this
like
is
servos and Kaladesh, I think were a little bit too narrow. Thopters having flying ends up being a little bit, or like, sorry, servos were narrow flavorfully, and
mm,
Thopters, the flying adds a lot of like developmental issues. Construct feels like the perfect middle ground, so yeah, like that a lot. Um,
yeah.
the last land is another land which deals with like modality. It's Shop of Mysteries. So here you can tap and pay 5 colors, and then choose a mode of it that hasn't already been chosen. You shuffle your library and draw 2 cards, create 2 treasure tokens, or shuffle 2 cards you own from outside the game into your library. So I think the treasure mode feels a little bit weird to me since you're already sinking in 5 mana, but the others feel pretty cool. Like uh, not interacting with. I think this is again. This is the first card we're seeing that doesn't interact with artifacts at all, but it still has that feeling of like, what's going on here?
Yeah, a shop is a great flavor for having a wide variety of effects, but at the time, I like that what you cannot choose again because at the shop, when you buy something, that thing is that you've now taken it from the.
Yeah, like no returns. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean it's not a Target. They don't have another one. They
Mm,
don't have like 20. Yeah,
God,
it's
I
just things.
mhm. Can't wait for urban fantasy set where we can just get like a trading post variant that is literally just supermarket.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, What card do you want to talk about next?
Okay, let's go and cover Ant Pie's Oddities.
Okay, cool.
The legendary artifact. When it enters the battlefield, your library, 4 cards. Reveal them if there are 4 artifact cards with converted mana cost or less. There's the cog, and they have different names. Exile them, then shuffle your library, and then its activated ability is pay 1 tap. Create a token that's a copy of a random one of those that were exiled. So while thinking about Curios, I thought that having it just a random thing that you don't know what's going to happen with it, that trying to generate that random source was difficult to me, and I was trying to think of how to do. And this card, I think, was a great execution of finding effects that generate for your little tokens, but having it be random makes sure that it's like still wondrous of what are you going to get. Now, of course, there could be some combo potential here with 4 specific cards, but I like the thought that's
Yeah, it definitely has a gifts ungiven kind of feel to it, where it's like if you have redundancy, you just find them all and somehow do something. But it's cute, it's fun. I like and like I want to specifically shout out the flavor text. Uncurated curiosities collected for the curious. Say that 5 times fast. But it's just yeah, I like overall like and like calling it like a specific like who's on pie. Like it asks questions too. It's just a fun card. I like it. Um, yeah, so I think next up, I'm going to shout out Relic Ribbit Thief, which is, I think this is actually our first non colorless card that we've looked at today. Um, it's 4 blue and a blue for a creature frog, but it also has a curio cost of 4 blue and a blue. So curio is a mechanic where you can cast it face down as essentially a manolith, and you can turn it face up at any time for its cost, which is, I think, turning. I think I maybe should only be sorcery speed because otherwise you get some weird situations where like you can put a blocker in front of them that normally wouldn't have existed, but it's still just like a really cool mechanic. I think that as morph variants go, um, being able to trade in a creature early for like a manolith to like smooth your curve or like to give yourself fixing is just really dope. And then you can in the late game turn it into an actual finisher. And hey, they like you can play if you play multiple, you can just like end up using them to ramp into each other. So
this one I of that awkward space 2 mana for really good 3 mana, but when you pair a 3 mana mana rock with uh, something as substantial as a whole card on the other side, that is
and notably, like you can yoink your opponent's curios with this one. So this is a in the environment that curio
oh
as a mechanic
yeah.
could be in. Like suddenly the value of this goes up by so much. So yeah.
I'm curious about the blocker situation. I think this is still fine. Like it starts as an artifact. I don't like you have to flip it before declare blockers,
Oh no,
right?
I just mean in the sense of like it ends up in like feels bad situations where like someone like swings in and then they have open mana, so they just manage to flip their manolith into an actual creature, and you don't know if they're bluffing or not. Where at least with morph, you know that they have a 2/2, so like because I'm assuming that curios will not always like it doesn't have to be a creature; it can also be like different permanents too, because there's been some
Yeah.
designs shared that way. So it maybe
Okay.
I'm overstating the impact of uh, like flipping it over at instant speed to block, but like it definitely it feels a little bit weird in terms of like in the space it plays in between flash and morph, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. I got you. So like during your end of turn, I like change that into a creature or creature math affected.
Yep, yep.
Cool. Relatedly to the mana rocks that I was talking about, card design that of Curio, and this one is you pay 3 and you can tap it for a black, but when it enters the battlefield, you create a treasure token. Now, this is like this is sort of like bridging the gap between a 2 mana costed rock and a manolith. Gives you a little 2 mana this turn that you can use, but later turns you have a regular.
Yeah, like it's hard to evaluate this one because it's I think that like it's just so explosive the turn after it comes down, and I think that like after thinking about it for a while, I think that's like generally a good thing. It leads to some fun, exciting like limited moments. Um, Yeah, this is crazy because I think this is the card uh, that is so similar to an existing card, but still gives me trouble evaluating it, and I think that's a really cool dynamic where like you just tack like because it's easy to like break an existing card. It's much harder to make it difficult to evaluate, I think. And I think that this is fun for that reason. It's like it makes you really like reconsider the value of your mana rock. So yeah.
And shout out to the guild choice here because Smothering Tithe had its token, the Orzhov state.
Yep. They they're always gonna get your wealth in this life or the next.
Yeah. Okay. Charming.
Okay.
So next up we have Charming Curio. This one is an artifact. Tap or pay 2 for it. Its ability is tap it, sacrifice it, and then you get the first modal is draw a card, the second one any color, and the third one is gain 3 color. In other words, clue, treasure, and food. Uh, this is super clean, and I like that the regular 2 and tap sack has been moved. 2 part has been moved up to the top corner. And then, of course, it's got no subtypes because it's got the advantage of being any one of these. I think that's overall very clean design. Yeah, I'm not sure how often I'd be cracking for life. Maybe in an artifact fall deck type of thing. I care about the artifact entering, metalcraft, or affinity. Very cool.
Yeah, it's just. I think this comes back to what I was mentioning earlier about just modality. It's just suddenly it takes an effect that isn't very impressive at first and just makes it that much better. And I don't know if you already mentioned this, but I love cards that subtly call out things that already exist without having to call them out by name. So how this is basically a clue, a food, and a treasure all in one. But
Yeah,
to
yeah.
yeah, I guess treasure doesn't cost 2 to tap and sack. So once we get another that does that, can just replace that mode and see what
There
that.
you go. And the whole package is completed with using charming.
Ooh, I actually that completely went over my head.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a very just like the charming prince thing. So
Mm-hmm.
so cool that we do have 3. We incidentally have 3 major types.
Mm-hmm. Um, so I'm gonna talk next about a design that really tickled me, and this is Star-Crossed Lovers italicized. Um, this it tickled me because it's something that when we get to my designs, so, like I was expecting a lot more people to reference Cloudstone Curio because like that when I think Curio and MTG, I'm like yeah, of course, and I think that this is like pretty like mechanically pretty close to that. Whenever you cast a permanent spell, you may exile target permanent that shares a card type with it, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. I also just I love the flavor of it, and I love like the idea of just like where is this statue? Like this where what's the story behind it? Again, having all of those hooks from just a single card, and like both mechanically as I discussed and the flavor, A plus for me.
Yeah. And like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's just cute, and like
Is
I'm a
this the
I'm a
first time we've seen italicized text even on like silver border cards?
I don't know about Silverboard. I know it hasn't been like silver or sorry, italicized names have not been done in canon Magic, but it has been a thing in custom Magic for a while.
Ah,
Mostly for like vehicles. Like there's a popular vehicle called Intrepid, just italicized. So just for like
I
name flavor.
I actually just remembered there is a canon blackboard. It's Sarpadian Empires Volume
Oh
7.
yeah, the classic
Yeah.
book. That and oh man, the love song of Night and Day. I think that's not an actual card, but those are like I think the two classic MTG texts.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess maybe well, it does. It's kind of weird to do so, but the Theliad I think is the
Oh yeah,
Theros,
yeah, yeah, for
and
sure.
the other one. But they wouldn't make a book about what's happening right now. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's a future years after I have some books about.
Hmm. Okay, what card do you want to talk about next?
Okay, so we'll bring up the William Wonder's House of Curiosity.
Okay.
So this one is a flame card. I want to set off some air horns. plain design that happens. But so this one's on Ravnica, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, each player creates a colorless artifact souvenir. It has 5, sacrifice it, and you reveal the top card of your library. If it's not land, you can cast it without paying cost. Wow. The chaos effect is when you roll chaos, you can search your library for a card, shuffle. So the part I love most here, that's very flavorful for what you do in plane chase. You go plane to plane. You go to a place in real life. Sometimes you take little interesting things with you. You got a magnet.
Yeah, like I'm gonna be honest, I've literally never played Plane Chase. I've seen so many custom plane designs and I've never understood any of them. It's my greatest shame. But I think this one just don't you don't need to understand Plane Chase to understand it. It's just really like flavorfully straightforward. Mechanically, it's like, oh okay. Yeah, so you have this thing which allows you to free cast something. You have an ability which allows you to tutor something to the top. Now we're in business. It's just it's clean in all respects.
Hey, no problem about not playing plane chase yet. It just means you have the joy of first time play. Well, I think some people the joy of discovering whether you enjoy it. But
That works.
I imagine this could be a night like having souvenirs there. It sounds kind of goofy, but if you imagine a planeswalker like Tamio, where Tamio likes to collect stories and stuff, but someone who just likes to explore and stuff, maybe you can have plane chase call in that plane.
Yep. Okay. Next up, I think I want to talk about oops, sorry, let me look up the name here. Oh yeah, a Demon of Foul Curios. I think we barely got any black submissions for this design. Like okay, well, to be fair, we barely got any colored submissions at all. Um, but like, I think that of all the colors, like red, white, and blue play very cleanly into artifact spaces, and then green and stuff, like we're going to see, there's a single green card. But I think how do you make curios or artifacts interesting in in like a black space? And I think that this one does it in a really interesting way. I also just want to shout out, like, I want to just talk about literally every new artifact token type that people have created because I love them all.
Oh yeah, definitely. Exploring those like even also enchantment tokens, especially too. But yeah, in this case, black is like, yeah, I create them. I actually just go and give them to my opponents since they love them so much. White, blue. Here, have a token. Enjoy. They're like, oh no, I want these gifts.
It's like I just harmless offering. Like, yeah, no, take it. You love it for sure. Mhm. This is also like I know that this is a good like mechanic or like I've seen it like designed with because there's a similar thing or basically the same thing except it's called pollution in a set called Umera, and the stuff that's been done there is very cool. So I just want to give a quick shout out if you're on the Custom Magic Discord, check it out because
Mm.
it makes really good use of like the of this totem mechanic. Okay,
So I like to go simple design because you're a Curio smuggler.
for
So
sure.
this one, sorry.
I said for sure because I was just pulling it up.
Oh yeah. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Curious Smuggler, it's a 1/1 for 1 in a blue flying bird. It can only block the Welkin turn type of thing, but it's a 1/1 because when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. But it's the story here that I love. Okay, so drawing the card, it's the Curio. You're smuggling. While you're smuggling, you're trying to stay out of sight. So that's why you're flying above the clouds. And now you can swoop down, but then people would see you, and thus only block creatures of flying. You're not willing to swoop down because you're carrying some elite.
And like I think it's another thing where I think common designs are hard, like way harder than people give them credit for. Um, and that's why we don't see people doing them for these types of challenges because they have these cool flavor based ideas and they're like, well, okay, that's uncommon complexity at least, usually rare. So I love seeing common designs for this because it, in a weird way, it pushes the envelope of like how much can you do with how little.
Exactly.
Um, so I mentioned earlier the one green card that we had here, so I'm just gonna pull that up because I thought it was cool as well. It's Cowlborn Artisan, um, and this is pretty cool. It's a 3 and a green for a 1/4. When it enters the battlefield, you create a trinket, which is an artifact that gains an activated ability of an artifact or creature you control as it enters the battlefield, and it's a mana dork. So, oh, this is so cool because I'm just like, I feel like it has to be broken somehow, and like if I look over some more cards, like there'll be like something dumb to do with it, but man, there's so many possibilities. Just and I love that. Like, and I think that even though there might be some crazy stuff you can do with it in constructed, that would make like cheap trinket cards an issue. I think that you can easily make a limited environment where you carefully curate the types of activated abilities there are, and yeah, and like it's just super flavorful to me, and that like it feels like it has a little bit of that creature's essence. It's like it's a little like piece of shrapnel there. So yeah, big fan.
Yeah, this is another execution of finding some generation. In this case, it's how your board develops to have something trinkets, since you can't really open up a role-playing game. You can roll a.
Yep. I think with that, oh wait, no, I have one last set of cards I want to talk about, and these are these. It's a cycle, and I think I'll probably just be calling out a few of them, but it's the. I guess I've just been calling them the BB Curio cycle because they all have a BB in their name, but they cost a Phyrexian mana and their color to cast. They enter the battlefield tapped, and they have a small effect that you can pay for. I just all of the names have been so creative. I'm just gonna quickly put them up here: Butchered Bite, Branded Brain, Blistered Blood, Blended Bile, and Bleached Bone. I just love that, and like specifically for like Bleached Bone, I love the like giving creatures minus minus is not very much in White's pie, but the idea of killing an attacking or blocking creature is. So yeah, I love that the kind of black shifted designs that they all represent in small ways. So yeah, I was just a big fan of this cycle.
Curious effects. So, Curio and
And yeah, I think with that those are all the cards I wanted to talk about. Did you have any others?
I have one more.
Sure, let's pull it up.
So kicking it from common to Kujar, Curio Craft, or Kuyar. Okay, so it's green and a white. It's another elf artificer. It's 2/3 when it enters the battle. Whenever an artifact token. I like that this can be a signpost in some set. The next time we a set that has or type theme that has a lot of those type of tokens, and then of course a lot of art. So maybe in Kaladesh, I would like to see something that cares about artifact tokens because there's just so many of that. Not very many enchantment tokens. It would be kind of neat to see this.
And yeah, a little bit of background lore on this card's creator, Mako. They're known in the custom Magic community for making Alara, which is a Return to Alara set, and it's one of the most polished return sets that anyone has done. They're also a general fan of like return sets. They're currently working on Dawn on New Phyrexia. They have Eldraine Ever After and a few others under in development. So when I saw this and I saw the Kaladesh like art, I was like, So hopefully this is a signal of a project to come, perhaps. But yeah, in general, Mako knocks return cards out of the park. So it was pleasant. It was also pleasantly surprising to see this. Yeah.
I'm glad for your deep knowledge on custom set community sets. Also, Alara, what an elegant name for a return, since the first set it was called Shards of Alara. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they were like, I forget what maybe Maelstorms of Alara. I forget the exact name they originally had, but they had like it's on, and then they were like, well, just call it Alara, simple to the point.
Yeah, Dominaria did.
Okay, so before we wrap up, why don't we just each talk about our cards that we designed for this Curio challenge. So for me, I designed a little cycle of enchantments. And this is going back to what I was saying, like I expected everyone to get on Cloudstone Curio. And I spent most of yesterday like collecting these cards, and I was like, no one's doing Cloudstone Curio riffs? So I went and I made a few of my own. I tried to make the black one like less abusable / breakable, but I think it's still there's probably still something dumb, but that's the point of Cloudstone Curio. And then there's Starstone Curio, which is essentially what if we reversed Cloudstone Curio so that you're incentivized to bounce things, and then you can put down some crazy stuff. And then finally, I had Sunstone Curio, which was just enchantment shifted Cloudstone Curio. And I think someone asked me why not just make these colored artifacts? Why are they enchantments? And my only reason is that everyone else was making artifacts, so I wanted to be a hipster.
There you go. I I love the trying to find magic cards cycle expand as if they were always a part of something greater that you just have seen and
Yeah, like some of the best designers I've seen in custom spaces usually make me go like, wait, that doesn't already exist? I have to like look it up on Scryfall. And
ah,
just like, oh, yeah, that's just completely new. So what is your card for this challenge?
the Curious Collector in blue, Merfolk, legendary creature, 2/2. It has tap. If your collection, you may draw a card. If you didn't draw a card, create a treasure token. There's a reminder text that says your collection is complete as long with different names. So yeah, that's a reference to Mermaid. That lyric, something about the collect is complete. But yeah, the I looked at Fifth Dawn's handful of cards that cared about cogs that cost one or less, and I wanted to do something that cared about that. So I thought, okay, what about you take Zendikar Rise party mechanic where it cares about creature types, but you have to have a diversity of names rather than subtypes, and of course, having it be one or less. So just play three whatever, three little bubbles or
Yeah, I really like this. It's cute. I think that I would love to see like other collection cards where like you look at the top X of cards in your library and find a card that could be in your collection and put it into your hand. Uh,
oh, a collectible. I
mhm.
gotcha.
Oh yeah, you could literally just call it find a collect choose a collectible from among them and put it into your hand.
I might then consolidate just on
But if your
from
collection is
how.
complete, it's super cute. I love it.
Yeah, there was some improvements I think made on this on Twitter where don't care about the three threshold, but just about the fact that you should have five.
Five is also like feels like it's a lot maybe,
Oh,
but
not having it be a threshold, like you don't have to get to five, but like say draw cards equal to the size of your collection.
oh okay, so it like scales
Yeah,
like that. Um,
yeah.
there was like a similar I guess like there's a similar discussion I had with there's a designer called Matt. There's a mechanic called Wanderlust that he made that is um, if you have four or more differently named non-basic lands. And I talked to him about like threshold versus scaling, and he said that scaling like sometimes like limits the kind of effects you can do, both in terms of the upper limit and it makes it hard to judge on the lower end how how easy it is to achieve. So it's just having a threshold um, makes it easier for you to design cards as like on or off with those effects, and also just
Yeah.
makes it easier to like because you have like a distinct thing of I want them to have this many but no more no less kind of thing, so you can so that you can like reliably design around that.
Yeah, definitely a good.
Okay, and with that I think we're done with today's wrap up.
All
So
right.
thanks for
Thanks for
joining me.
having me on again.
Yeah, this was dope. Um, so today's theme was binding, so we're going to be talking about that in tomorrow's wrap up. And you guys are all going to be watching this on October 4th. So the theme for today is smog. So I'm excited to see what people come up with. Once again, make sure to post it on Twitter with the hashtag MTGMoxtober, or if you're posting on Reddit or one of the custom Magic Discords, just include Moxtober in your message, and then we'll collect them all and put them together and maybe even feature them on the next wrap up. Also, you can look in the description to find an MSC set file for all of the Curio cards that we talked about today, and then some, since we had a whopping 57 cards. We couldn't talk about all of them, but we're seeing them, we're collecting them all, we appreciate them all. But yeah, oh
And I'm
sorry, go ahead.
sure there might be some lurking out there. It's hard to find them. Right.
Yeah, and yeah, so just make if you want to be featured, just make it easier for us to find it, basically. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, until tomorrow, this is Caillou and Bradley signing off.